Some final thoughts on 9/11 from our September 16, 2001 Newsweek on-air broadcast. With co-host Warren Levinson of AP, I'm David Alpern.
We call upon the entire world to step up and help, because terrorism is a common enemy to all, and we're in this together. The United States has borne the brunt, but who can be next?
Senator John Warner joining the call for a new worldwide alliance against terrorism, which even threatens old foes like Russia and China, not to mention nations throughout the Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. And suddenly it seems we may need them more than we used to think they needed us. So writes Newsweek International Editions editor and columnist Zakaria, and we have him on the line now to talk more about the new world that the world, especially America, has just entered.
Fareed, never mind Francis Fukuyama, you call this the end of history. How so?
If you remember, about 10 years ago, people began to think that the world of politics, political struggle, ideological strife was over, that we were all going to be sitting around worried about our bonuses and consumerism and materialism. And I think what has just happened is brought back politics and government and all kinds of very old-fashioned things, because we realize that there is, at the end of the day, still government's primary task at hand, which is to ensure our security.
Well, speaking of Fukuyama, he actually considered the threat of Islamic extremism but dismissed it. What didn't he understand?
It's an interesting question. For Fukuyama, Islam didn't pose a radical political Islam, didn't pose a threat, because he said it has no adherents in the West. In other words, we don't seek to become Islamic. There is no tussle of ideas here. The way he put it, I think, was he said, they are no threat to us. The problem is we are a threat to them, a threat they feel with blinding intensity. And that is, after all, what has motivated the struggle. So we're in a war that we may not have wanted to start, but we're in it all the same.
And how do you think this attack will revive the importance of government and politics, both here and abroad?
After having watched what happened and has happened in the last week, and the extraordinary heroism of those firefighters and rescue workers and policemen, I think we're all going to have a somewhat different attitude towards the hero worship of simply making $1 million. We suddenly realize there's more to life, and there are honorable and dignified professions out there. At another level, government becomes important because it is protecting us or trying to protect us from this threat.
Is there a point at which the Islamic world revolts against this in some way as well?
Oh, I think the most important thing to understand is that this is a battle within the Islamic world. That is, that there are, for the most part, within this world, moderates, secularists, liberals who believe in combining Islam with modernity, just as the West has combined Christianity with modernity. And then there is this small, fanatical minority of radical political Islam that is essentially an attempt to take their world back to the Middle Ages. And they are on the front lines of the struggle. One of our great tasks, as Warner alluded to, is to make countries like Egypt and Saudi Arabia realize that if they do not help us now, they are on the front line. So Osama bin Laden's number one target in reality is the moderate Arab regimes, because he believes they are the true infidel.
And you say even beyond those who might fear a threat of extremism, it's the end of the free ride for the rest of the world if the United States loses in this war.
Well, I think that the rest of the world has to recognize, and I think they will recognize just how much they benefited from the world, if you will, that America helps create, a world of globalization, free trade, free travel, lots of opportunities for everybody, a world of freedom in every sense of the word. But they will have to realize that it doesn't come free, that you have to pay for it, and that you have to support political struggles, that you have to take part in the defense of this order actively. They cannot, if you will, denounce America by day and consume her bounties by night. And for the most part, we have seen a spirited response, but I think we will need much more, not just from the average American, but from the average freedom-loving person.
The talk around the United States now is of warfare in response. Do we need to think about warfare in this war in a different way from the World War II model?
It's a very different war, and others have alluded to this, but the most important thing to remember, I think, is it's a three-front war. There's a military aspect, probably the smallest, for a very simple reason. There aren't a lot of targets. There is then the intelligence, covert operation, police work aspect. That's probably the largest, and that's going to take enormous international cooperation. And then finally, there is the political. We have to wage a war politically in the way that we did against communism, to lessen its appeal, to make countries around the world not susceptible to its ideology. And similarly, we have to support moderate Islam, support moderates, so that we don't make radical Islam appealing to hundreds and thousands of people. Because if they get new recruits by the thousands every day, everything we do on the military front will be for naught.
Fareed Zakaria is editor of Newsweek International and a columnist for Newsweek magazine.
Here are more quotes from last week. We are not interested in reading them their Miranda rights. That was Georgia's Republican Congressman Bob Barr on terrorists and those who support them. But Virginia's Republican Senator John Warner said it is beneath our dignity to declare war on alleged terror kingpin Osama bin Laden.
God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
A unified Congress sings its patriotism on the Capitol steps from our September 16, 2001 Newsweek On Air broadcast, and repeated for your ears only.